Hello, everybody. This is the Brett Davis podcast coming to you from Attorney King Studios in Coronado, California. I'm very honored today to have somewhat the modern guru. Don't be embarrassed. It's okay. Armon
Mhm.
Eckelbarger. How you
Yep.
doing?
Doing great, man. Doing great.
So I've been following you for a while. The thing that I like about what you do is a lot of people that are not familiar with Vince Duranda, who was probably one of the greatest trainers of our, of history, I would say.
Mhm.
That training should not be forgotten, nor should the nutrition part of it, because it worked. And
Oh,
I
yeah.
think somewhere along the way, people, a lot of things that worked in the old days, people put it aside and they stopped using it because of modern things. And a lot of the modern things, to be honest with you, are really not that. Yeah, we've made some, some strides in the right area, but um, the go-to types of training that Vince did works all the time, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a shame that people kind of threw the stuff under the bus, but you had equipment manufacturers, you had people that are trying to get market share and want to do new stuff, and I get that. It's just that conceptually, everything he did was really sound, and but people kind of got away from that because they wanted anything new, which still happens today. Anything that's kind of gimmicky, gets promoted pretty heavily, and it can come and go. But he understood the muscles. He also very well understood nutrition and supplements more than anybody else, and so he just didn't bat an eye when it come to getting your results. And you got to think the pressure he had under him to train the Hollywood stars couldn't have been too light if you want to keep that business going.
Sure. And there wasn't really anybody doing what he did back then.
Oh no, I mean he
Not
was
like he
pretty
not like
creative.
not the way he did it, at least.
Yeah, I mean he created a lot of different rep schemes based on personal experience. I mean, if you look how good a shape he was in his 50s, in the 1950s, or give or take there. I mean, for his age, all natural, doing what he did, he knew what he was doing, in my opinion. So
Well,
I
I
thought it
think
was
we agree.
phenomenal.
I think we agree on that. And the thing that's nice is that he didn't look like a freak. His body looked
Nah,
great. I mean, a lot of the new up and coming athletes, I just don't I don't like that swollen, puffy, bloated look. To me, that's not a classic physique.
yeah, I'm on the same page. I mean, like, of course, I grew up admiring Arnold in the early days and other athletes at that time just because of the size component. But they were very lean and in great shape. And that was the thing with Vince is he knew how to get really lean to really show and highlight the muscles, and then how to pose to show the silhouette and the shape. So that's why he was also miles ahead of it. And so when he started working with Larry Scott and other people, because he also worked with Arnold for about 9 months, he taught him a lot. And I think he also taught him how to do nutrition because
Do you remember
Arnold
what
always
he
came
told
in really
Arnold
good
when he
shape.
first you heard the
Oh,
story when he told
yeah,
Arnold
that
when he
that
first
one's
met
pretty
him?
much it. Yeah, it's pretty much everywhere. Yeah, Arnold's pretty excited about everything, I guess, because he's been having some luck, and when you come up to Vince and bragging about his accomplishments, and Vince is like, well, you look like a what to me. So,
Well, go you
uh,
can say it.
yeah, fat fuck. You put
He
that in there,
called
and
him a fat he called Arnold a fat fuck.
yeah, and I think Arnold was probably taken back, but then he also come back and said, "Well, okay." He knew he had room to improve, and
I think he trained there
Vince
for a
is,
year.
yeah, it was a year or 9 months, something like that, and then he wanted Arnold kind of wanted to start doing his own thing, but Vince taught him a lot of stuff on how to help his legs too, and people don't
Right.
don't realize that. Now, Arnold did squat, don't get me wrong, but Vince showed him the hack and he showed him the sissies and other things and leg extension, especially leg extension, how to do that. And Arnold, he used them to the max. Of course, he
Right.
needed to.
Right. That's a lot of thing about the bodybuilders of the old also. They trained heavy on the off season. They did a lot of powerlifting, basic type movements.
Yeah.
I don't know if they do that anymore like they used to. I mean, there was a period of time where you had saw them doing powerlifting and squats and benching, and I know Vince's take on the whole thing was a little bit different. He was all about the angles.
Yeah, he was shooting for shape. He wanted to really develop all the muscles very evenly. I mean, he didn't leave anything out. The calves, the forearms. I mean, I don't really train my forearms that much, but that's because of they develop pretty easily for me. But he had everything for each muscle group.
He did.
And he wanted everything to be balanced. So, and guys do that now, but at the same time, the way he was doing it, he had to come up with these combinations of exercises to do that. And that's not necessarily easy. You do a lot of experimentation with that.
So if you're talking to somebody that had never worked out before, what a blessing it would be to learn these programs, wouldn't it? I mean, starting out.
Yeah, and that's what we're trying to do with NSP. We're bringing back it's called a 21-day challenge, but what that's designed to do is it's how Vince trained the movie stars. He had a 21-day. It was actually less than that, but we extended to 21 days. Vince had to get these movie stars in shape within about a 10 to 14-day period, and so the regimen he put together it's very spot on, and we get great results when people participate in this challenge.
Mhm.
So that's one thing as a beginner, because the Hollywood stars, a lot of them they had no idea about anything, and it includes nutrition and supplements with the challenge. So you're learning, how to eat to get leaner, and then the different in the routines. They had one set routine, but the way it works is you do one round one day. The next day you're going to do 2 rounds of the same thing. The next day you do 3 rounds, and then you keep going, and then you end up doing twice a day the same exact routine. So it's a lot of conditioning in a short period of time, but it's
Mhm.
amazingly effective, especially with the diet that he combined with it.
Sounds to me like you need a lot of sleep. That
Well,
during that program.
he was also a big proponent of making sure you get sleep. I mean, Vince was not against anybody taking a nap to help the recovery. He was always about getting recovery, because that's when your hormones do their work, that's the repair work, and that's pretty critical to get the right amount of sleep.
So how do you think a program like that nowadays would do during a pandemic like we're going through?
It actually works pretty good because you don't need much equipment. So you can do it in your home. It's just a matter you got to have the mental mindset and wherewithal to just be consistent. And so there's some support that they provide at NSP as you participate in it, because now what they've done is they've converted the challenge to an app, and the app has everything on your phone. So it has a nutrition plan. It's got your workouts with video demonstration, so you can track your reps, your sets. It has your
Wow.
tempo. It has notes section in it, what to be aware of. Very comprehensive. And then you can put your before photos in, upload those. Then later you take your after photos. So it helps somebody to really learn the mechanics of good sound mechanics of just an overall, because it's a total body workout. It's an overall body workout, but it keeps increasing intensity to challenge you. And again, not everybody finishes it in the condition they would like to, but it's an eye opener. And that's really the thing that helps people to understand, oh, okay, if you want to be in good shape, these are things you got to learn.
And he wasn't really a big believer in cardio, was he?
Well, no, and I mean, I don't do cardio, and there's a lot of arguments about cardio. The thing with cardio is if you're not careful with it, you'll burn up muscle tissue, because everybody thinks it burns fat, and this isn't me just talking here, but it burns glucose first and foremost until your insulin levels drop down. Then you can start to burn some fat. But if you're a person that has carbohydrates throughout the day and you're doing cardio and you continue to eat carbohydrates, you're mostly just burning the carbohydrates you ate that day. So, and Vince understood how carbohydrates work, and he knew that. So all of his nutrition programs utilize carbohydrates the right way. And that's what I learned for contest prep for myself, because I got my pro card last year, and I used a lot of his concepts for that, and it works really well. But when it comes to cardio, he felt like as you warm up with your sets, you're going to get warmed up and do good form, which is true. If you do good form, you'll warm up pretty quickly. So,
So you got your pro card. Congratulations.
oh, thanks.
What organization?
It's NPC, so I'm an IFBB pro. I got mine in the lightweight at the Universe show. Um,
That's
that's
impressive.
oh, thanks. Yeah,
You
yeah. Started targeting that when I was 56. I'm gonna see if I can get a pro card. So I got it done actually 55 or so. I started competing again at 55, and then my goal was to get a pro card. So it took me about a little over 2.5 years.
so you don't go to the competitions, but you're an IFBB pro.
Well, I haven't started competing as a pro yet because I just got it, and so. But I'm also working on my other business, which is I'm coaching clients. And so until I get that kind of where I want it, then I'll start looking at the pro shows and just seeing how I stack up. So, but it's really competitive no matter how you slice it. So getting a pro card wasn't easy. I kept getting second. So I was in the hunt. It's just that I had to tweak a few more things, and which I did, and finally got it. So I was pretty excited about
Well, you know
it.
what's that's fantastic. So you know what's great is that we live in a time. I mean, you remember people in the 70s, 80s that were 57, 58, and there's definitely a difference with that time period of the way people looked compared to what people look like now, like yourself, who don't look
Mhm.
their age at all. I mean, you look fantastic.
Oh, thanks.
I mean, you look like my son with hair.
Well, I'm working on it. So, but again, I've been training almost 40 years.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of science that talks about telomere length and other benefits of doing the exercise and doing, the right kind of exercise. And I think so far I've been doing what I should be doing. But you're always reviewing stuff and reanalyzing it.
So, how close to what Vince did are you doing for your preparations?
Well, I like doing the 6x6, the 8x8. You just got to be careful how much volume you do because, I don't do all the drugs and stuff that people do. So I am on hormone therapy, but I'm on very little. So I just have enough to keep my hormones in an optimal range. And so then that's just basically some testosterone is what I'm taking, but it's very minimal. It's like less than 80 milligrams a week total for to keep myself ready to be. And I learned that the best way to keep your hormone levels better, and Vince knew this, was eating fat
Yeah.
because fats are what the hormones need to rebuild cells, and so they're going to stay more active that way. And then you need the proteins because they're involved with almost every metabolic process. So if you have fats and proteins, which Vince talked about, they're very acidic in nature. They digest well in nature, so they absorb. He would just enhance it with digestive enzymes to make sure everything got absorbed really well. It works. It works great. So, like my hormone levels, I was actually taking a little bit more, but as I continued to learn more about this and execute it, my hormone levels got better. So I just take very little to keep it in optimal range. You don't need to go over the top. And so when it gives me the strength that I like to have, and I feel great, and I monitor that, and I don't have a lot of issues. I don't have any issues actually. My lipid profiles are, my triglycerides are between 50 to 70. My cholesterol is like 160, give or take, to 180, just depending. And that's with eating 6 whole eggs, every day, and then grass-fed beef and things that are supposed to be bad for you.
So you do that for
Um,
breakfast?
I do 6 whole eggs for breakfast. Yeah, that's 36 grams of protein. That's the focus there, and
I
I
think
cook
Vince
that with coconut oil.
didn't Vince do a eggs and steak typically in the
Yeah, the
morning?
steak and egg. Yeah, steak and egg diet. So that was mostly steak, though. With you would do some eggs, and it was brilliant because d- do you understand why he has the eggs in there? You ever think
Yeah, well,
about that?
I would say probably because they have the good fat in the yolk, and then probably combined with the steak, it keeps your blood sugar balanced for probably a longer period of time.
Yeah, eggs are high glycemic when you need them, so they'll convert to glucose as you need them. But if not, then you have the protein. So he was brilliant with that because you combine that. If you need a little bit of glucose, bam, your eggs would convert if you needed it. Because the thing is, 50% of the protein you consume does convert to glucose.
Yeah,
There's
a
a
lot of
lot
people
of,
don't know that, do they?
yeah, no, they don't know it at all. They think that they're getting all that. And no, it converts to glucose. And it's a real eye opener. Even when I learned this, like, I'll be dang. But it makes sense
Sure.
if you're eating that way because you have good energy and you do need the glucose for that, but you're just using the glucose that you need. So it keeps you leaner. I stay lean all year round. I do a carb cycling program, which is more of a modified version of what Vince does. I adjust it for myself, but it's extremely effective. And I can have the foods that I want to have. I like carrot cake. I like
So
blackberry
do I.
cobbler. Blackberry cobbler. I put heavy whipped cream on it. I mean, so I want to have these things, and I can do that without a bunch of concern or affecting my health and things because my metabolism is functioning at a high level. I'm a big fan of Vince and he also pushed this, was iodine. I take iodine every day, and it does help your thyroid work at an optimal level. And at the same time, that's going to help your mitochondria burn more energy and give you more energy, et cetera. So it keeps your core temperature where it needs to be. So metabolism's firing at all cylinders. I mean, he did kelp tablets in those days.
Right.
They didn't really have the iodine, but when I read about that and I started that in my program, I was like, oh, this is good.
So you're
And
taking the
then
iodine in which form?
um, elemental iodine. So that you need to understand that you just don't. When it comes to buying iodine, you got to know how to do that. So the kind that we have in NSP Nutrition is elemental iodine that'll absorb pretty quickly, and then it gets in your system. And it's 13 and a half milligrams of elemental iodine with each tablet. So it's not a heavy dose, but it's a good dose to help stimulate that gland. Because if you do research, you're going to find that we have a huge thyroid problem in this country.
Yeah,
If you
huge.
if you look at Japan, who eats a lot of seafood, they
Right.
have virtually no iodine issues. They have no thyroid issues.
Right.
So, you know, and people don't know that, then they don't think about it.
No.
So it's another thing to keep your health good. And Vince was all over that.
It's very interesting. I think I'm going to need to get some of your iodine, some of your other
That's good
products
stuff, man.
to
I
speed
mean,
to speed my metabolism up a little bit.
that,
I
I
don't
mean,
think I don't believe in things happening by accident, and I know there's a lot of people out there that could utilize what you're doing, and I think it's important that we don't forget. And you've added modern touches to a very effective program that he created almost how many years ago? 80?
well, he started in the late 40s, I think 48 or whenever is when he opened his gym, and he had to make things happen.
Right.
So, he had his dad to help him refer people because his dad was a stunt man. Vince wanted to be a stunt man, but he was
Right.
too frail in their eyes, and so that's what led him to want to develop muscle and get bigger because he still wanted to be a stunt man. But
Right.
he ended up finding his own little sweet spot.
I had an
And
opportunity to train at the gym one time,
I can only imagine.
and he was quite a force. Even and this was maybe 3 months before he passed,
Oh
and
wow, okay,
it was a phenomenal place. It was like I don't think I talked very much. I think I just shut up and I listened to what he had to say. But
yeah.
I was saddened to hear when he passed. But he left a big impact in a lot of people's lives, and that's why I think
Oh,
we're still talking about him today. There's been nobody like him. So talk about some of so you have some of the programs, the booklets, of course you have the
oh yeah.
supplements. So if somebody's coming to you for the first time to transform their life, what would you suggest?
Well, what I do with my clients at this point, I'm typically working with people 40 and over, is I want extensive lab work done. I want to know how they're doing internally and then how their hormones are doing. Because Vince understood hormones as well, and he was the first one to really bring glandulars to the market because they've been around forever, but people didn't really understand them. But he understood that you need to nourish the gland if you want it to function well. So he came out with his own glandular products at that point. But what I like to do is get the person's status on, is their testosterone, their total testosterone, their free testosterone, their estrogen, their DHEA sulfate, their pregnenolone, their IGF-1, their cortisol, their DHT, all these different things. I want to see how they stack up to see if they're in optimal range. And then after the lab work's done, I have two medical groups that look at it to determine what they need to do nutritionally and supplementation wise to improve the levels to make them optimal range. So one group will just do it, but they don't do prescriptions. Then I have another group do it, and they can do a prescription if the person needed a prescription, say it's for thyroid or something like that, or even testosterone, things like that. So you get two different viewpoints, but I quarterback all that to determine, okay, what steps we're going to take. So that helps us to determine, okay, nutritionally, they need some other things to go with the supplementation to improve their levels. So, a lot of people are kind of low on DHEA and their pregnenolone tends to drop due to stress and then, the environment and things like that. So that's an easy fix. That's an over the counter supplement that we can bring back into check and things like that. So what I do is analyze the diet and see if it's a very carb rich diet. If it's a real carb rich diet, then I'm going to coach them on how to use carbs to their advantage and not to their disadvantage. And that's what Vince did, and Vince had all kinds of diets. It just wasn't one diet. He would cater the diet to the person's situation that he felt would get him the best result from his experience. So I'm doing the same thing indirectly with my own strategies and with the medical people involved, so that I get good feedback, and we're not doing anything that wouldn't make any sense. And then I coach them with that, and then we look at what they're doing exercise wise, what would be best, and then put together a nutritional suggestions through how to optimize everything going forward, and to make it so that it's incorporated into the lifestyle fairly easily. And that's just typically going to mean having lower carbs for a period of days, and then you bring the carbs back in, but making sure you have highly absorbable protein. That's another thing people don't get. They think protein's protein, and it's not. And Vince also knew that. So he knew that you had to have, eggs are 90% like human tissue, so they're going to be absorbed very rapidly. He knew that steak was a very good source, but it digested slower. He also knew that milk protein, the casein from that, was very good because it would gradually stay in your system. So you have all the amino acids you needed for growth. Now, one of the things I also do that Vince was a big fan of, and pretty much created it, was beef liver capsules.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't understand anything about beef liver capsules, and I didn't either until I started taking them, which is about
They're amazing.
5 or 6 years ago. And these are capsules now, and I guess in the old days they were tablets, which I guess were kind of brutal, but the capsules are not a problem at all. And when I started taking those, based on Vince's suggestions that I was reading about it, I couldn't believe how my stamina and my energy perked up. And I was 50 some years old. So I'm like, well, what's causing this? And then when you read up about
a lot of B vitamins.
Well, B vitamins, but what happens is it increases your red blood cell count. And it has high in iron, hemi-iron. And so that also helps carry oxygen to your system. So you're just a much more efficient, and on top of all that, it's protein. So it's like one of the best nutrients you could take to enhance any kind of training program. And I've been sold on those.
How many do you take a day of those?
I take 10 at a time, and I actually take them in between meals. And I take them twice a day. I take 10 at a time twice a day, and I take them in between meals because that keeps me in a positive nitrogen balance without having to eat food. So you
don't have a catabolic effect.
Yeah, so I'm only eating 3 meals a day, and I have that. So again, I'm staying lean, and I'm putting on quality muscle, and I'm reshaping my body, I've made some pretty good changes in the last 2 years because I've learned other training and the way the nutrition works. Your body's rebuilding cells every 6 to 8 weeks. So the better you make your nutrition and your training, the things are going to start shaping up the way they should shape up. So, and again, I'm not doing a bunch of drugs or anything to make that happen. I'm just doing it all naturally,
right?
Outside of my hormone therapy, but I'm not on that much. So it was just amazing when you do this. What's that?
How long are your workouts typically?
45 minutes.
How many days a week?
Right now, I'm 5 days a week because I'm still trying to keep my conditioning up. I'm deciding, may look at a pro show in the first of the year, but right now I just don't know yet. But I'm just working on keeping my size up, trying to add some more quality muscle, working on my weak areas. So 5 days a week is pretty good. You really got to have a couple of days, in my opinion, based on a lot of research, to let your central nervous system kind of catch up with all the stress you're putting it under. Right. Now, it's 45 minutes, but it's an action-packed 45 minutes. I don't take a lot. I'm not one of these guys that takes breaks. We're going from one exercise to the next, or we're doing 15-second, 30-second breaks, period, and then right back at it. And so that really helps to increase your intensity, and intensity is what builds muscle. Right. You can do all the sets you want, but if you don't have any intensity to stimulate the central nervous system to do that, you're not going to get the kind of results that you'd want to get, in my opinion.
Well, especially when you're natural.
Yeah. I mean, it's not easy, but it does work. And, Vince knew it would work. And that's why he was kind of a big neggy on doing drugs. If you train the right way and you eat the right way and you supplement, you don't really need that. And it's really healthy. And that's what he wanted anyways, is to stay healthy.
Well, I appreciate you sharing this. We'd love to stay in touch with you on some of the great things that you're doing, because I think it's important that people remember, and you're doing great stuff, and it's honest stuff, because I've used it in the past when I was a trainer, when I had my gyms, with clients, because it worked.
Yeah.
And everybody is different. You can't give everybody the same program. Now, one question I like to hit on: how similar is keto to what Vince was doing, combining with his nutrition and his protein?
Well, Vince, again, he would only do the keto for like no more than 12 weeks, period. He didn't really think it would be good to go longer than that. It was just designed to get you lean. Then he would have you switch back to a different diet. And he had multiple diets to go to. So what he would do, it would be zero carb. Okay, that's why the steak and egg kind of scenario happened, or the maximum definition diet, which is similar. Those are zero carb. And then after 3 to 4 days, if you start to flatline, you have one carb meal. And he was brilliant with the one carb meal because he wanted you to have high glycemic carbs. Do you have any reason? What do you think he wanted to do that for? What do you think he did that?
Blood sugar, higher carb.
He wanted that.
Well, it puts almost like filling the gas tank back up. It's putting fuel back into your tank.
Well, here's the thing, and I had to learn this also, is he understood how high glycemic carbs work because he wanted you to have high glycemic carbs. So when you have high glycemic carbs and you haven't had any carbs, you get an insulin spike that shoots straight up. And what happens is that pushes the nutrients into your system really quickly and then drops right back down. So you're back into fat burning. It was brilliant. So I do my carb reloading like that. I do high glycemic carbs, and you do it in the evening because, again, you're going to be burning fat throughout the day. So when you do it in the evening, what happens is when you have that insulin spike and you absorb those carbohydrates, you get an elevated serotonin level. So the serotonin converts to melatonin, and that puts you in a nice deep REM sleep, which allows your hormones to also secrete really well. I was just like, the guy was absolutely amazing.
He's a scientist.
And so when I started doing it, it's like, wow, this stuff really works. So, and that's what I incorporate for myself and my clients is I do carb cycling. I do carbs every so many days, depending on how lean you are. Because once you get really lean, you can have carbs every night, the night before you train, anyways, to reload the muscles and liver so you have good energy for your training. But if you're trying to get leaner, then you cut the carbs out for so many days and then you reload. And it works really, really well. But they need to be high glycemic carbs, which are the bad carbs, like sticky white rice, white potatoes, pastas, even some breads, because that instant's going to jump up and then it's going to push it in, and it's going to jump right back down. If you do the slow burning carbs, then it doesn't have the same effect.
What about like bananas, sweet
Yeah,
potatoes?
not sweet
rice.
potato. It's a slow burning carb, but white rice, not brown rice. Bananas are perfect. You'd want the banana to be really yellow or even brown because the
Right.
glycemic index goes up as it gets darker. And that's a good one. I mean, yeah, grapes, watermelon, pretty tasty type foods that you can put in there. But like mashed potatoes, I love mashed potatoes, so I can have them on my carb night. Corn, the cob,
You're actually making me
peas.
hungry right now.
Yeah, I mean, and it works in your favor, and you have all the fiber. So you don't have a lot of your gut microbiome stays where it needs to be. So you're breaking down the foods and you're keeping your immune system boosted. And that's the other key element. My immune system has really improved over the last 5 years. I used to get sick all the time. And I don't have
So,
hardly any problem at all.
so what do you attribute that to?
To the nutrition.
I
I
mean,
mean,
what's the difference in your nutrition before compared to now?
well, before I was eating whatever I felt like eating. We just don't know any better. And then when I started reading about this and changing things up, it was, like I'd get up, I'd have 3 or 4 eggs, maybe that morning, or 6 eggs, and then a bowl of oatmeal. By the time I got done eating that, I was bloated because carbohydrates are alkaline in nature and the eggs are acidic in nature. So that causes a bloating effect. And when you have a meal combined with heavy protein and carbohydrate, that's where the bloating comes in. And that's why a lot of these people have, big stomachs too, because they're trying to consume a lot of food, thinking that's what they need to do.
Right.
But all they're doing is creating this gas in there, and it causes digestion problems over time, ironically. So I started taking probiotics. That made a huge difference. Didn't realize
Huge.
how important that would be.
Sure.
And then on top of that, vitamin D3. And everybody should be on vitamin D3. You should be on, to me, a minimum of 5,000 units just to keep your hormones, because it is a hormone.
You already said?
Yeah. And
Sarah and I talk about this all the time.
oh,
I take 10,000 a day myself.
yeah. And well, they've got plenty of studies to confirm how effective it is to kill cancer, to do your immune system the way it needs to be. I mean, you can get 10,000 units with an hour of direct sunlight, but
Isn't it
who's getting
different?
an hour of direct sunlight?
Isn't a little different, subliminal or capsule based compared to the sunlight though? Or isn't there a difference between the two? I've heard there's differences.
Not that I read. Dr. Browner was one of his articles I was reading. He was the guy really the foremost proponent for it. I will say this though: when you take vitamin D3, you need to take it with fat, and some people don't realize that. You need to have it with fat so it absorbs better into the system. Otherwise, it doesn't absorb as well.
So for the general audience that's listening, when you say fat, including fat in your eating plan, what kind
Yeah.
of fats are we talking about?
Well, that's a good question. Ironically, Vince knew this too. Is Mother Nature put fat in all your protein? So every piece of protein you eat has fat built in. So there's one source right away. And then the good fats, olive oil is good, coconut oil, even though they throw it on the bus because it has some saturated fat, but it breaks down into a long chain, medium chain triglyceride. It's a long chain carbohydrate, how it breaks down. So it's not a bad thing. And how much of that you're really eating if you're using it? You use it to cook with mostly. But you have that, you have MCT oil, you've got avocados, which are really good for you. A lot of good quality vitamins, a good fiber in there. Nuts. I like all nuts except for peanuts. Peanuts are just too high in omega-6 and omega-9 oils, which can cause inflammation. So if somebody's dealing with joint problems, I have them eliminate peanuts out of their diet. It does help. But the other
Does
nuts
that
have great.
does that mean
Yeah,
peanut butter also is included with peanuts?
yeah. I don't recommend that. So okay, if you really want that, get some almond oil. Or
So
almond butter.
when you do your vitamin D, what do you take it with?
Well, after I have my eggs, I got plenty of fat, so it absorbs really well.
So
So I
you
just
do
take it
your
right after I
eggs and
eat.
then you do your vitamin D.
Yeah. Mhm.
You do
Yeah,
six
anytime you
hard
have a
boiled.
meal with some fat.
You do 6 eggs.
Yeah, I typically do 6 eggs. Yeah, the
And what do you
36
cook
grams
them?
of protein.
You cook them in coconut oil or butter?
Both. If I do butter, it's going to be grass fed. Everything needs to be grass fed on the beef side just to get the conjugated linoleic acid from it because that is an automatic fat emulsifier. So that's one thing. But other than that, I use coconut oil to cook with. It has a high heat point, so it doesn't damage the food. And you just get you don't get the one that's been refined. You want the one that's refined, so you don't taste any coconut if you don't like coconut.
I love
So just
coconut.
if you love it, then you just get the regular.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the definition diet because there's a lot of controversy as far as like plants or not eating plants. So typically Vince would do 2 meals a day, right?
It depends. You could do up to three, with the maximum definition diet. He just did two for his own personal use.
Right.
He only weighed 160 some, 170 pounds as a competitor.
So in morning would probably be 4 to 5 ounces of steak, right?
Well, what he did on the maximum definition diet is like any kind of meat that you like. It could be pork, it could be steak, it could be chicken, it could be fish. I don't care. No limit. And then how many eggs you want to eat with that, no limit. It was real simple. And then he had his long list of supplements.
But here's the thing on that subject, and this is a little controversial because as we just said that if you eat too much protein, it converts into glucose,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So you gotta kind of test things and know your body because you could overeat too much of something and then it could actually go into a glucose situation, right?
Well, here's the thing though, is Vince understood the hormones for your appetite, leptin and ghrelin. And so he just said, eat till you're full. So whatever that ends up being, then mark it from there. So there's your gauge right there. Because if your leptin's working good, which it will, if you're doing low carb, your leptin kicks in really good. And it's going to say, hey, I'm full. Because ghrelin doesn't overload you so much. If you do a high carbohydrate diet, and your ghrelin is going to come up, and then you're
Sure.
constantly hungry, along with the insulin causing you to want to snack and things like that. Because you're working off a quick energy of carbohydrates and sugars.
So you'd have whatever meat that you want, and then you'd have some eggs, like
Yep.
as many as
No
you
limit.
wanted. So that would be like breakfast. And then
Mhm.
and then he would do at nighttime, would probably do like, again, a meat of some type, and then some type of plant, a salad with maybe like what kind of oil? Olive oil?
Yeah, olive oil. I mean, he was a big fan of olive oil, which, I mean, it's olive oil has great stats. And you just don't want to cook with the virgin olive oil. You want to cook with the extra light. It's a little more processed, has a higher smoke point. Some people cook with the virgin olive oil, and that's not good. It doesn't have a high smoke point. It damages the food.
Okay, that's good to know. Oh, so give us a website, what where people can go to get more information. Oh, it's streaming. I'm sorry. Sarah already put it up. Thank you, Sarah, for
Yeah.
being on top of that. It's already up there.
Okay.
I look forward to getting some of your material. Sarah's always on top of things. She's like 10 times further ahead in a
Yeah,
lot
I
of
can
ways.
tell.
Well, I
Okay,
haven't
that's
eaten
good.
yet. I haven't eaten yet today either, so I'm kind of like out of it. I need I'm kind of beat up today. I need to get some food in my system, but I appreciate you being on the show,
Yeah.
and I look forward to meeting you in person one of these times, and
Yeah, same here.
getting a workout in, and either when we're in your area or if you're in our area sometime. And I look forward to getting some of your materials and using that for my shows that I'm going to be doing next year.
Okay.
But and see if it could, I think that this is probably what you're talking about also for people, for men and women, probably one of the best anti-aging type programs around.
Yeah, I'm into that now. So yeah, I've had a lot of research on it, and there's some really good science that's come down the pipe on age reversal. They've done it with yeast. They've done it with mice, and rats. So, and there's some the studies are there. It's just they're trying to figure out, okay, how are we going to do it for us? And so the supplements are already coming out, and I'm trying those too.
Good.
And then the protocols that are coming with it. So I'm experimenting with that. Yeah, it's just kind of cool stuff. So, and I'm intrigued by it, and I want to help my clients with it because I work with people that are really successful, so they want to enjoy that success as long as possible. And
Sure.
when you slow down the aging process, you slow down illness. And
Sure.
aging is what causes most of the illness. And so they're trying to take aging and call it a disease is what they're trying to do in the age reversal group because it technically is. So if you can slow it down, make it work better, you don't have all these other complications. But you have to change out what you're doing nutritionally and your lifestyle if you want to get the benefits of it. You can't do what's going on in America now. People are just drinking all they want to drink, eating all the carbs, the chips, and all the stuff that the food companies have it going on. They got people enjoying all their products, but they're killing us. So, and people are getting wise to it, but it's a process, I think. So, but that's what I'm coaching my people on.
Well, thank you again for taking time. You're calling all the way from what part of Florida?
Well, I'm actually in Crystal River, Florida, which is north of Tampa by about an hour.
Okay.
So,
I've been
yeah.
close to that area before. I've been in Tampa
Oh,
and a
okay.
little outside that area. It's a nice area.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I really enjoy it.
Well, thank you, Armin, for being on the show, and appreciate what you're doing. And I look forward to getting more information myself and getting myself in as good a shape as you are close, at least. If I can get close, then I'm doing pretty good.
All right. Well, I'm just struggling like everybody else, trying to find out what works and learn from it and keep improving because it keeps you healthy too. It keeps you, motivated. So,
Look forward to seeing you sometime in person, brother.
hey, you too, man. Really appreciate the opportunity to let me come on too. So,
I'd love to have you come on another time. We'll get some other experts on next time and make it very interesting. And
okay,
I think this information needs to get out there. I appreciate it. Thank you.
sure.
Okay, everybody, you've heard a great show. This is a good way to reverse the aging process, lose extra weight, especially with the holidays coming up, and for your life, not just for the holidays. And Armin has given us great information from the great Vince Duranda, and he's promoting all these great things that need to be not be forgotten about because they're very important nowadays,
Well, they still
and
work. Yeah.
they still work. And of course, I want to thank my sponsors, Attorney King, for believing in what we do. And of course, IB Fitness, Rena Teal, for what she does. And hopefully, we'll be seeing her do her podcast soon. And Saquon Casino and Resort, which we'll be doing our Halloween party on the 29th coming up in San Diego. Yeah, it should be quite a party. We're going to have legendary sports agent Lee Steinberg
Oh
at the
wow.
event. You know who Lee Steinberg is?
I've
Super
heard
agent.
of him. Yeah.
He's the guy that's the real Jerry Maguire. So we'll be having him there. He was the guy that was the sports agent for Mahomes that did that $500 million deal. He put that
Okay.
together. He's quite
Wow.
a guy, a genius in his own right. And of course, I'd like to thank Nikki Rotten's. And then when you're in town, we'll have to grab a ribeye over at Nikki Rotten's. They're a really grass-fed, nice ribeye over there. They're a great sponsor of the show. And so I thank my sponsors. I thank all of you. And remember, health is the great wealth. Everybody take care. God
I
bless. And see you next time.